Hey everybody, my name is James. I am one of the hosts here at eduStream, and today we're super excited to be joined by John Roberts from PTZOptics to talk about their cameras, controllers, and HIVE Studio and how they fit into the education workflows. Hey John, how's it going?
Great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Of course. So, why don't you do us a favor and introduce yourself to our guests and then maybe tell us a little bit about PTZOptics?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is John Roberts. I'm the customer success manager for PTZ Optics. And PTZ Optics has been a leading manufacturer in PTZ cameras for about 10 years now. And we look at the market as growing, continually growing and expanding because PTZs are becoming a extensive and important part in production. So what we offer is high quality cameras at affordable prices. And we're continually expanding, and we're happy to talk about Hive Studio today, which is our new camera control platform. So there's a lot of exciting stuff for us coming out, and we're happy to be here.
All right, sounds good. So let us get right into it and start talking about some of the cameras and controllers that you have available, and then we'll get into some workflow examples. Really excited.
Great. Yeah, I'm also very excited. So, the education market is really exciting for us because it's broken down in a lot of different levels, right? You have elementary, your primary school and high school, and you also have universities and colleges, right? So, a lot of these get broken down in various different ways because education is not as simple as it may appear, right? So, when it comes to education, you obviously have your classrooms, and I'm the customer success manager here. If you guys need anything related to our cameras, anything to Hive Studio, reach out to me at john.roberts at ptzoptics.com. Now, I wanted to hit on some of the main points that people look for in education. So, obviously, you want ease of use. You want products that are very easy to have volunteers jump in, control them, use them, and get to know them very quickly. You obviously want things to be affordable. Education usually buys products on a large scale. So you want things to be affordable and to be used both inside the class and outside the class. Domestic support is very important. You want to be able to call someone immediately and be able to get them on the line and have great 5-year warranties like we offer for our cameras. And then you want versatility when it comes to the outputs. So some schools may want to NDI and use everything over IP, or they want to stick to what they know easily and simple, like a USB input. And so you also have compatibilities with a lot of programs. So we're talking about Stream Deck, OBS, vMix, a lot of easy to use platforms that we integrate in for free.
Yeah, one of
Now,
the
when we're
things,
looking
oh,
at cameras, yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, James.
So one of the things that I was going to say is what we like to say about the PTZ optics cameras in particular is total connectivity, and I think that it's worth mentioning that again that you have SDI, NDI, USB, HDMI, every single kind of connection point in all of these cameras to be able to use in any situation. And I just wanted to emphasize that it's any situation. And you have PTZ cameras that are starting at under $1,000 that have all of those outputs available. So I just wanted to re-emphasize that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, and you can even use both of those at the same time in a way. So you can output via HDMI, you can output via IP like NDI, all at the same time. So I've
Yep.
seen a lot of universities do that across various workflows. So it's become very, very important to have standardized outputs across all of our products. So quick little glance, Move 4K, that's our 4K 60 FPS PTZ camera. It's going to offer advanced tracking and now even voice tracking, which is becoming very popular in education markets. And then looking at the 1080p version, we're looking at the Move SE and then a Simple Track 3, which is our dual lens tracking camera. So you're going to have a little bit more automation and control over auto tracking with the Simple Track 3.
Great.
Alrighty. So I wanted to go over a little overview again of why PTZ cameras and PTZ optics is great for the education market. So something I mentioned is just ease of use. So Stream Deck has become super easy. I have one right on my desk here, a tiny little 6 input device. And to have this set up on a teacher's desk becomes very simple, right? They can easily click a button to go right back to home or right back to their desk or right to a certain student in the room. And then we also have easy controls for apps, free apps, third party apps. And we also have obviously great controllers. And we support tons of different plugins like OBS and vMix. Obviously, we offer great high quality lenses and sensors that are great in low light performances. And we offer HDMI and SDI outputs, all with HD or 4K 60 FPS. And then, of course, our cameras are perfect for hybrid learning. So you can have great access remotely with Hive Studio, which I'll talk about a little bit today. And then we also have local control, tons of different options for local control. And then, of course, our products are very affordable and very easy to access across many resellers across the country. Moving forward, I wanted to show some of these easy control solutions. So, kids are very used to controllers. When it comes to Xbox controllers, game controllers, kids have grown up using these. So, we found it very important to make sure that it's supported with all of our cameras. So it's also supported inside of Hive Studio, where you can use a game controller to control your PTZ movements very easily. And I found that working with kids, they get excited when they can use a controller to control their camera, because it then becomes more of a game and it's interactive, right? It's a lot more fun for them.
No,
But
I
out of every box, every camera that we have includes an IR remote. So right out of the box, you're able to control your PTZ cameras. They're very easy for what people are used to. They're like a TV remote. So teachers just find them very easy to just immediately use and start moving their camera. What you also have here is the Stream Deck. So this is the interface that you would see on an iOS device, like an iPad or an iPhone. And you can easily program this. And this is completely for free. You don't even need to buy the hardware for a Stream Deck. They're great little devices and they're very affordable, but you can even do this for free on iOS. All right, I just want to quickly go over some simple workflows. I'm not going to spend too long breaking down these diagrams, talking about network solutions and all that, but I wanted to show some examples of how these are used in day to day classrooms and outside of the classroom. So here we have a very simple setup. You're using a third party smartphone app, or you're going to use our PTZ Control Pro 2 app, which is a great free application to control your PTZ cameras. And then I want to show you how this could be used. So here we have Rosemont College. They were using this during the pandemic to kind of mix in hybrid learning since all their students were remote. So we have a clear demonstration of using the IR remote, which is really simple solution to kind of control your camera. And then you can even set presets on that as well and adjust between multiple cameras. But this made it really easy for these students now to stay connected with their professor, stay educated and still feel like they're participating in the classroom. Moving on to a little bit more complex workflow, I'm introducing the Simple Track in here. So the Simple Track 3, like I said, is a dual lens tracking camera. It's great for education because it's a one camera setup. You have a wide angle view and your main sensor in your main barrel. And that's going to lead to better auto tracking across the board. What you're able to do is set up different zones. You can have a whiteboard zone so the camera will automatically pan and move to that whiteboard when the professor or the teacher is walking into the room. And you can even have it turn on lights or open up curtains or interact with your environment if it's IP based. So a little bit more complex, but I wanted to show a demonstration that we did in two different environments, one in a conference room or in an actual classroom where you're using the Simple Track 3. And this provides awesome automation, right? So you can have even a blocking zone. If there's like a window where people might walk by or a space where, the camera might get distracted, you can completely block that off entirely. So that way it knows to stay within your zone and keep tracking in that specific zone. All right, now we're starting to open it up to a bigger, wider view, right? So we have many cameras in here, and this is probably not going to be used inside of the classroom. We're going to go beyond that. And that's why you start to see the lobby monitor. So think of things like an auditorium. Think of things like sports, right? Massive fields where you need multiple cameras. You might need to output to a lobby. You'll definitely need to be controlling these cameras in various different ways or multiple controllers. So I wanted to show various examples of this. And I focus it first on sports. Recently, we just did an awesome rugby game. And you can see here kids from 8 years old to about 12 years old using our Super Joy controllers to control a series of Move SE cameras, our 1080p 60 FPS cameras. So you can just see just how young our user base is right here. So, and they were easily able to just jump in, control our cameras, and understand exactly how this workflow works. It becomes more of a game when you integrate children into like the productions. And I've seen it more and more throughout the years that high schools now are even including production classes with PTZ cameras. And a lot of the times the classrooms are integrating those cameras in and they want the kids to be able to control them. Production is growing and it starts at the youth, right? So we see this as a great opportunity for kids to start to learn more about how production works and how PTZ cameras can be involved in those productions as well. So we've also done a series of other different games. These are all varsity high school sports. So we had the rugby match that I showed there. We have a local ice hockey high school team, and then we did a at Salesianum High School here. We showed off some lacrosse and football. So they were all using around 4 to 6 different cameras. For a rugby stream, it was 4 cameras to cover the whole game, and then we had different controllers, and we were switching it inside of a YOLO box. So you have a lot of different output options. We were using IP for control for this setup, and then we were also using HDMI for video switching to get that 4K 60 FPS video. All right, now if you're going to go back inside, I'm thinking of an auditorium, a larger space that might need 4 to 6 cameras to kind of cover the stage and cover some of the audience as well. So here we have a little demonstration that shows 4 different PTZ cameras that should cover your entire stage and space. And then we have also some of our support team doing an installation here to kind of showcase how this would be set up. And some of these people would like to mount these upside down. You can mount these with a 30x lens, which would be great for a large space like this, or even a 20x lens would be great for a space that's more on a medium size. All of our cameras come in the 12x, 20x, and 30x when it comes to the standard PTZ cameras like the Move SE and the Move 4K. So here on the right, upper right there, is HIVE Studio. So that's just a quick view at multi inputs inside of our new camera controller. And I'll show you that very soon. I keep teasing it for you, but here we are with HIVE Studio. So, James, I think it might be helpful to showcase Hive before I kind of break down all the features individually.
Yeah, I think one thing that we want to mention is that Hive Studio just launched at NAB. So kudos to the PTZ Optics team, and I am super excited to see this demo. Before we get into this demo, I do want to just go back to 2 slides ago when you had the field there and you had those students using the SuperJoy controller. One of the things that you mentioned is that it's very intuitive for students to pick up and start using these controllers. But you guys also take it a step further and you have a basic mode specifically for the SuperJoy controller that makes it so, whoever's running the entire production doesn't have to worry about, one of the students accidentally changing the IP address or messing up the color or something like that with those cameras. You put it into a basic mode and they can call up presets and they can move the camera, but they can't really change any of the major settings. So I did just want to mention that because I think that it is great to get students involved in these productions.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. I'm so glad you brought that up because it makes it really easy, right? So basically, what it does is disable any input on the device that's not lit up, right? So you can individually go throughout the entire SuperJoy and turn off individual buttons. So that's beyond the basic mode. You can even customize it to give them additional controls. But yeah, I'm so glad you called that out because we try to make it easy, right? When you look at a controller, there's so many buttons and it can
Right.
be overwhelming, right? Especially for a kid who's just like, I'm used to joysticks and like a game controller, which we always offer. It's a great solution, but the SuperJoy is a really top of the line controller. So thank you for calling that out.
Of course. Now, I'm super excited to see Hive Studio in action. I'm sure that our viewers are excited. So, why don't you take it away?
Great. So I'll just give you a little explanation of what Hive Studio is. So Hive Studio is going to allow you to mix color correction, recording, and high-end camera control into one platform. And not only that, you can easily share this platform. And then even better, it's included with one camera for free. And even better, it's not just limited to our cameras. You have options to integrate third-party cameras as well into Hive Studio. So we're supporting over 400 different make and models of cameras, and we're continuing expanding it beyond that. And it's not just limited to PTZ cameras. You're talking about DSLR cameras and webcam cameras and all sorts of different cameras we're trying to support in Hive Studio. So we're trying to make a very centralized platform for color correction, for recording, and for great camera control. Alrighty, I'm going to pull up my local studio here and I'm going to give it a quick refresh. Alrighty, so here we are inside of Hive Studio. I'm going to refresh our inputs here, and we are currently in local mode. So Hive Studio offers the ability to be both local and remote. So you're able to easily jump into the software and you're able to share this studio. So you can either share it so you have access to control certain cameras or access to the overall platform where you can then share and invite others as well. So it makes it very simple, much like a Google Drive or a Google Doc. You can just click one button, copy and paste, or just throw in their email and send them the platform. So here's a little view of all of our inputs. We call this the multi view because you're able to easily see various inputs locally or remotely. You can also go to a single view and easily switch between your views as well. But let me show you some of the cool camera control tools. So we have our move tool, which basically uses your mouse as a joystick. So wherever I move my mouse, it'll follow along. Wherever I zoom in on my wheel, it'll follow along. Hey guys. And then we also have some cinematic tools as well. So this is what I call Cine Center. So basically, whenever you click on a point in the screen, it'll center that. So here we have our Studio 4K, which I'm using for my main video input. And we also even have cinematic fast frame. So if I zoom in on our Studio 4K here, double click to frame that directly, it'll zoom in and adjust based on where you're trying to focus on. So I'll switch to a different input so you can see here. We also even have a joystick controller that's built in with your mouse. So you'll see the percentage of how fast you want those movements to be based on how far you're moving your mouse. Alrighty, so I can show you some basic controls here on the right side. You obviously have your standardized home button, zoom in and out, pan left and right, tilt up and down. And then you have your standard PTZ controls that you're used to. So most of the time in these control platforms, that's what you're limited to, right? You don't have any additional tools like we were just showing you. You don't have the ability to sometimes show off multiple inputs in one platform. And we even have the ability to now integrate audio into the platform. So as soon as you click on it, it's going to look for your local sources. If you have linked a remote computer to this studio, you can then bring in remote inputs as well. So when we were at NEB, we were bringing in our inputs actually directly from our studio here to our NAB booth, and we were also bringing in local inputs as well. So, like I said, you can add audio. You're limited to a certain amount of video inputs depending on the plan that you have. And I can go further into that once we get to the pricing. But something I didn't mention is also color control. So you have the ability to color match your cameras very easily. So you can even set presets. So if I like the look of my little Lego pollen test here, and I've color corrected using all our tools here on the side, like blue and red tuning, I can click one button and it'll create a preset based on that image colors. So this works for not just our cameras. It goes beyond just our cameras. You can have over 400 different make and models of cameras inside of Hive Studio. Something that's also really cool about Hive Studio is the ability to monitor your sources. So in the education field, there's going to be a lot of IT departments that want to monitor every camera or source across their campuses or their single campus. So here you can quickly see how your camera is sending video, how you're receiving it locally in Hive Studio, and the quality, bit rate, and the FPS that you're currently streaming in. I mentioned your bridge. You can also monitor your computer as well. It'll give you information about your space, your CPU usage, and your RAM usage. And it's important to consider your recording space because Hive also allows you to NDI output as well as recording ISO inputs. So you can individually record every one of these inputs, or you can even output all of them together and integrate it with OBS or vMix or your favorite camera switcher. So this is giving you complete control over your cameras remotely or locally, having full control as well as image adjustments, color adjustments, and then soon we'll even be offering auto tracking built into Hive Studio as well. So you'll be able to offer auto tracking for cameras that don't even support auto tracking natively.
Wow.
So I'll quickly show you presets. In one click of a button, you can set a preset, and that's going to be a little pollen test here. I'm going to send our camera crazy back to our home position, which is going to show off our green screen here a little bit. And then with one click of a button, we'll go right back to that preset that we just set. So now you can easily name this preset, and you'll know the preview image of that preset as well. So that pretty much covers the overview of Hive Studio. But just to give a further breakdown, I wanted to show you exactly how this works feature to feature, right? So let me jump back to our Hive section here. And this is what I was trying to break down a little bit. A lot of these control platforms are very limiting. They feel dated, they look dated, and I think Hive Studio is one of the best looking and feeling controllers on the market. You're not limited to these clunky controls. You're not even limited to local networks anymore. Now, there's going to be no automation. And if there is automation, it's going to be a paid add on or it's going to be additional software that you'll need to download. You're not going to have the options to collaborate with your team, whether it's someone who's a camera controller or more of a producer. And then you're only going to be limited to that brand. You know, without calling out any specific brands, there's certain camera brands that make PTZ cameras that are very limiting. As soon as you buy one of their cameras, they're trying to lock you into a very tight ecosystem where you're not allowed to kind of expand and control their cameras. PTZOptics has always been open. We've added free firmware updates, free support for other products, and we're continuously supporting other platforms and other cameras. So here's a little quick overview of some of those tools I was showing you. You have your click to center tool, which makes it really easy to click and center your frame. You have your cinematic tools like fast frame, which will really slowly, smoothly pan and tilt trisynchronously directly into your point of contact. And then you have your presets that I showed off. your basic joystick control, and auto tracking. Something I didn't mention is that you can actually integrate with those game controllers. So you can integrate an Xbox controller locally. You can have hotkeys to adjust and change your key presets. And you can also integrate hardware controllers. And that's not just limited to our awesome SuperJoy controller. You can also integrate third party controllers as well into Hive Studio. So it's so easy. You press one button, you can either share the platform as an admin, a producer, or a viewer. So something I didn't mention is that this could be used as a viewing platform. So when you think of, school events, if it's in an auditorium and it's this year's play, it's Wizard of Oz, right? You could use Hive with a series of camera inputs and share Hive to your whole school. And instead of just having this one centralized, video produced for everyone to see, you can have someone feel like they're a part of the production where they can zoom in on Dorothy's red slippers and they can interact with the environment. Or you can just have them see all the different inputs and have no control and they can just view everything that's happening in various different angles. And you can even set expiring permission. So security is obviously very important when it comes to education. So we want to make sure that the only people that have access to Hive Studio are the people that you grant and for how long you want them to have access to. Like I mentioned, you can easily sync and adjust your colors in Hive Studio. So this can be easily done across various cameras. One of the biggest issues is trying to integrate a new brand or a new different camera into your workflow. And you notice very quickly how off the color might be compared to your cameras that you're used to using. So this will make it easier to set presets, easily color match, and look at your two inputs side by side and just get the best synchronous color across all your inputs. All right. Something I didn't mention that's exclusive to PTZOptics cameras is that they're all Hive linked. So Hive linked basically means that once you set up and connect your PTZOptics cameras, you're able to send that. And once you connect it via Ethernet, you'll be able to access that camera remotely. So anyone who's been shared access to your studio would be able to remotely connect that. And for education, I imagine this is perfect for remote campuses. When I was in college, I went to school in Los Angeles for 3 months. I went to London for 3 or 4 months. And this was all through the same university. So I see Hive as being a great central control platform and a platform where you can easily just send new cameras to a new location, plug them one cable, and you're good to go. All right. Security is extremely important, especially in these educational environments. So we have end to end encryption using TLS, and obviously with your standard secure web protocols through HTTPS and WSS, because we know this is extremely important to keep your video safe. And that's why the only people that have access to Hive Studio are the people that you've given access via these user roles. And you can immediately take that away or set it to expiring access. And now we're not demanding you to change your firewall or there's no port forwarding, but we have this securely and safely as possible. So we want to make sure that your video stays exactly where it needs to be and no one has access to your cameras if you don't want them to. Alrighty. When it comes to the pricing for Hive, this is based upon a few different things. The way I look at it is basically how many inputs do you need? If you know you're using this in one classroom and you probably only have a couple cameras, you probably don't need to go beyond the standard studio. But you'll learn very quickly that if you have more inputs, and this could even be, USB input or a screen capture locally could be an input as well, you might need to jump up to the 8 video inputs at the professional studio. And maybe the number of team members you're using could affecting that as well. So in a school, you might want to have a larger plan that goes even beyond 10 members. So that's when you would look into an enterprise plan by contacting our sales representatives directly. So you can contact partners at PTZOptics.com, and that would be the best way to reach out in regards to an enterprise plan. So enterprise opens it up, makes it unlimited in terms of how many video inputs you can have, and we have discounted pricing based on these overages costing. So the overages are related to when you use Hive Studio remotely. Each of these plans have a set amount of gigabytes or estimated streaming hours based on remote usage. So if you want to use this completely locally on your local network, never send it out to anyone remotely, you can easily do that and you'll never get over the allotted cloud bandwidth that you have offered. So this makes it really easy, and we make it very clear in Hive how much you're using remotely, when you're using it locally. There's a little simple cloud button that you simply click, and it allows you to remotely send it to someone else. Alrighty. Now I wanted to take it back a little bit to education. I think it's very important to make these cameras and the control options so easy that a kid can use it. As I showed, there's a great little setup that we just did with rugby setup, and it made it super easy. We had Hive there with a game controller. One of the kids could hop on there and control cameras the way they liked, or they could use a hardware controller the way they wanted to. And then this easily expands it so you could have IT teams remotely controlling your cameras. They can even be monitoring your classrooms, different buildings, campuses. This could even be used as a security system for when it's off hours and kids aren't around, or the university is closed even for a holiday. So you can integrate security cameras like Access Dome cameras, where you can create a great security system across multiple campuses or just your local school. Now, at PTZ Optics, we offer basically plug and play solutions. With an Ethernet cable, you're able to easily connect it to a PTZ camera, get it set up either through a web interface or now Hive Studio, and easily be controlling your cameras, recording, and streaming instantly. Now, of course, I just mentioned security because it's very important. We make sure that it's very secure, that you're limited to who has access because of our encryption and because of those team roles. And we want to make sure that you always know your video is safe inside of Hive. All right, coming to the end, I just want to thank you, James. And I wanted to throw it to Brandy or Sean if they have anything to add in terms of the education market. I appreciate you guys also joining me. If you guys have any questions about PTZ Optics, you can go to ptzoptics.com or hit us up at partners at ptzoptics.com.
John, that was great. Thank you so much for talking about your cameras, your controllers, and that Hive Studio demo is amazing. I am super excited to start playing with it here in our studio. And just wow, thank you so much for that great presentation. As you said, if people have questions, you can see their contact information on the slide there. You can also feel free to give us a call for free tech support at 800-323-2325, and we will answer any questions that you have. John, thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody that is watching, stay tuned for more great content coming up next.
Thanks, Videoguys.